We will go ahead and get started into the presentation. I want to begin by just asking each of us to introduce ourselves. I'm Steph Gonzalez. I use she, her pronouns. I work at Williams College in Western Massachusetts. Mandy, do you want to go next?
Thanks, Steph. My name is Mandy. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at Amherst College in Amherst, Massachusetts.
Hey folks, I'm Windsor Jordan. I use he, him pronouns. I'm from Swarthmore College in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia.
And hi everybody, my name is Paola Reyes Noriega. My colleague Carolyn Starks, I wish I were her, she's fantastic. And I'm coming to you from Pomona College in Claremont, California, which is actually where I live as well.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry about not updating the name, Paola, thanks. All right, so Mandy's gonna kick us off.
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking about what is a fly-in program. So you came to join us today because you have some interest in some of the programs that we offer on our campuses, but you may have heard the term fly-in program and are not really sure exactly what it means. So we wanted to define that for you and to talk about what that really is. So a fly-in program is your opportunity as a prospective student to have an insider experience with a college or university. And so a fly-in program is called a fly-in program because typically in a typical year, a college or university might fly you in to have an on-campus experience from 2 to 3 days living, eating, and going to classes on a college or university campus as though you were a student there. And that experience is a really valuable way to get to know an institution and its people. But even though we're living through a national moment that Steph mentioned at the beginning, we're also living through a pandemic. And so a lot of fly-in programs may look different this year than they have in past years. And by that, I mean a lot of fly-in programs may make the difficult decision to be virtual programs as opposed to on-campus in-person programs. And we are really committed to maintaining the kinds of connections and experiences that you would have had if you were able to join us on our campus. And by that, I mean really having great relationships with professors, students, and staff at the college, but also meeting other students from across the country that are interested in applying to and maybe attending the college or university that you are interested in. I do want to underscore the fact that no matter what, if you are able to go to campus or if the program is virtual, attending a fly-in program is always completely free. And so there is no cost to any attendees to participate in a college or university's fly-in program.
So fly-in programs sound awesome, but who should be applying to fly-in programs? So first thing to know is that fly-in programs are offered to usually to high school seniors, so in your senior year. However, they're geared towards students that you see on the screen right now: first-generation students, low-income students, and underrepresented students. Those are students who the programming for a fly-in program is generally geared towards. First-generation students are going to be the first in their family to attend college, meaning that both parents did not earn a full-year degree from a four-year institution. You're still considered a first-generation student if your parent attended a four-year college but did not attain a degree from that institution, or your parents might have attended a community college and so didn't get a four-year degree, but maybe have an associate's degree. For low-income students, it might be defined really broadly. So it could be students who would not be able to normally afford a visit to campus on their own. But it also could include students who receive free and reduced lunch at their high school, or also receive maybe receive an ACT or SAT fee waiver. You may be asked to provide information about whether you receive free and reduced lunch or SAT or ACT fee waiver on your application, or you might be asked to talk about your income on your application to a fly-in program. Underrepresented minority students are also a part of this group as well. Students, that could be students of color, it could be rural students, it could be DACA and undocumented students, or other students who are traditionally marginalized in the higher education process. It's important to keep in mind that you don't have to be a member of all these different communities in order to be eligible for applying for a fly-in program. So some students applying to fly-in programs might fall into one of these categories, all of them, two of them. And so students can identify in many different ways, but you don't have to kind of check all these identities to apply to a fly-in program. If you find yourself in one of these categories, you might be eligible to apply.
And you may be wondering, what exactly is the realm of possibilities here? Where can I go? And the very exciting answer to that question is everywhere. And that is definitely true now, given that you don't have to fly anywhere, but that was also true before. And when we go hopefully back next year to in-person fly-in programs, keep this in mind that the possibilities are nearly endless. And they are vaguely defined by these three kinds of categories. So research university, these are generally going to be larger places that are made up of smaller colleges, like colleges of arts and humanities, colleges of sciences, colleges of engineering, and places that you may have heard of include Dartmouth, MIT, Caltech, like these big tech places, Johns Hopkins, all of our, friends at the research universities. The panel you see here today, we fall into this second category of liberal arts colleges. And these tend to be smaller places, like we're all probably sitting about no more than like 5,000 students, if that. So we're all, pretty small or intentionally intimate, as we like to say. And the thing that defines a liberal arts college is the type of education that you can get there, right? While at a research university, you are tracked into that college of X, Y, and Z. At a liberal arts college, generally you have a lot more flexibility to do one of our favorite things, explore. We love that word in liberal arts colleges. And so that's going to include, obviously, the four wonderful institutions represented here, but places like Franklin and Marshall, one of my greatest friends works there, places like Hamilton, Oberlin, the list is pretty long. I don't want to say endless, but pretty long. And then you're also going to have another kind of category, which is single gender institutions. And the ones listed here, I believe, are all women's colleges, meaning only women or people who identify as women are able to attend those institutions. And so that is a bit of a different kind of experience. And these might be, slightly bigger research kind of places, but actually I think the ones listed here are more of a liberal arts college kind of smaller place. Places like Barnard, Bryn Mawr, Smith. Right up the street from Pomona is Scripps College, a single-sex college. So you know that you have a lot of variety here in the types of places that you can visit, attend, and learn more about.
So when do these fly-in programs happen? So typically they occur during the fall of your senior year. And these programs can occur over the course of a few days, or maybe a single day program, depending on the college. And you may need to take time off from school or other commitments in order to attend the programming offered for a fly-in program. College may offer, obviously we talked already a little about colleges offering virtual programs, so this may change what that program looks like. So instead of taking a day, maybe the programming is happening in the evening, over a weekend, over a course of a couple of hours in a day. So the programming might look different this year because lots of colleges are moving towards a virtual program. We're generally going to find that these programs happen between September and November in the fall of your senior year. What's really great is that colleges offer similar fly-in programs in the spring after students are admitted to the college, so you can experience the college firsthand in the spring if you haven't had a chance to visit. Hopefully, again, lots of schools are moving to virtual programs this fall. Hopefully, we're going to be able to offer on-campus fly-in programs in the spring. So after you're admitted to your colleges, you may get an email saying, hey, you're invited to come to our fly-in program before you make your decision in terms of matriculation that spring. And they'll offer a similar experience to what you might experience in the fall, opportunities to meet with students and faculty and staff, opportunities to go to sporting events and go to student group organizations and all those types of things. And hopefully those will be on-campus experiences in the spring.
Awesome. So how do you go about getting into a fly-in program? What does the application process entail and what should you expect? So in many ways, the college fly-in process mirrors your actual college application process. You apply, you have to wait a little bit of time and wait for that answer from your college or institution. And then in most cases, and hopefully the good news comes and you get to go, or you get to visit virtually at least. And so we'll talk a little bit about what the application actually entails. You'll typically apply online. So at all 4 of our institutions, you can already apply to POP, A2A, Disco SWAT, WOW. Any of our programs are available for you to be able to start applying to now. Those applications are for, as we've already discussed, as Windsor mentioned, for students who will be seniors in the upcoming fall. So you can start to apply now in the summer. We'll all have slightly different dates, and we'll talk about our individual dates and timelines and our individual programs in just a few more minutes. But it's good to know that they're not all going to have the same deadlines. So definitely want to make sure that you're keeping track of dates and deadlines as you kind of go through the summer months, in case you have a lot of schools on your fly-in lists. And generally, the application is going to mirror your college application. It's a lot faster, a lot easier, and a lot smoother, but it has a lot of the same sort of general components. So you'll fill in some information about yourself, your contact information, who you are, your demographic information, where you live. You'll also share information about your school. If you work with a community-based organization, an after-school program or a weekend program that's focused on college access or after-school enrichment, you can share that information. Academic and extracurricular interests that you might have. Your high school transcript. And this is an important piece that I always like to mention to students. Your high school transcript should show all of your courses and all of your grades for all of the years that you've completed in high school. So those of you who maybe haven't yet finished your junior year and don't have a final transcript, don't worry, just wait until you get your final junior year transcript, and then make sure that you're applying or that you're following up with an updated transcript to the application process if you get it a little bit later in the summer. Some schools will have you submit the transcript yourself just by taking a screenshot or a photo. Others will have your school submit it. So there are lots of different ways for you to submit your high school transcript. Standardized testing, if you have it and want to submit it, in all of our instances, it is optional in the upcoming year for the application process. So you may not have standardized testing, or you may choose to not submit it, and that's totally fine. Your senior year class schedule is an important thing to include as well. Senior year courses matter deeply because they're the classes that you're taking closest to when you'll be enrolling at our schools. So we want to see what courses you have picked out and what your kind of general plan is for the upcoming year. And then finally, your essay. And we'll talk about some of the essays that we have on our individual application platforms. In some cases, you'll be uploading a graded paper. In other cases, you'll be writing an individual essay for that specific program. In some cases, it's a combination of the two, but there's always going to be some sort of a writing component to your fly-in application as well. And then Paola, can you tell us a little bit about the timeline for what to expect?
Absolutely. So now would be the time to go ahead and start doing some research on the types of colleges that you might want to apply to, first of all, and also apply to their fly-in programs. And then soon start writing a little bit of a personal statement, or take a look at those prompts for those essays and start writing those out. And a reminder that the first thing that you write doesn't have to be the thing that you turn in. So if you give yourself plenty of time to edit and go back and get feedback from different people, you can have the best work possible. Sort of now to August is when you'll start applying officially to those fly-in programs. Like Stephanie mentioned, most of our applications are live now, or should be in the coming days. So people or colleges are already rolling out those opportunities for students. And then they'll also potentially publish a tentative schedule, right? And so you can also make decisions about if you want to apply to that place because of how they're going about their programming. In the summer, we know it's not ideal, but you just have to hang tight and just wait. That is the time that where other students are applying. All of us have really large application windows to allow for as many students to apply as possible. So we open now and don't read your applications until August. So it's giving plenty of students more and more time to go ahead and apply to these opportunities. August to September is when you'll start hearing back from these places. And normally this would be a time where you can set up your flight and get all of that fun information. But now this will be a time to put these dates on your calendar and like reserve the days for your fly-in programs. This is also a good time to keep in mind that while we have scheduled ours on different weekends, for example, there might be some competing ones. And so you don't want to double book yourself. So this is a good time to get organized and put things on your calendar. And then September to November, as these programs are occurring, have fun, enjoy them, ask the hard questions that are going to help you decide whether you want to do something like early decision or early action, or just want to rate into regular decision. Really try to find a place that's going to be good for you via these fly-in programs. So a little bit of an overview of what you can expect in the coming months. Lots of waiting, unfortunately.
We also want to address the idea of paying for college. So obviously we're here to talk to you about the fly-in opportunities that you have, and particularly those at liberal arts colleges that are represented here. But it's also really important as you're thinking about fly-in programs to think about the cost of attending college, and when you're considering fly-in programs, you want to make sure that you're considering places that may be accessible and affordable to you when it comes time to attend that institution. So we want to talk about two terms in particular that you should look out for when you're doing your college search process. And one of those terms is need-blind admission. Need-blind admission means that when we are reviewing your application for admission, so if you decide to apply, maybe you attended our fly-in program, you had a great time, and you think this might be a great fit for me, and you apply for admission. That means that when you apply, we are not going to be looking at your family's ability to pay as a factor. Took me a long time to get to that word, factor in your admission process. So we will not be considering your family's financial need as we review your application for admission. We also think it's important to point out some institutions, including all four of us represented here, meet full financial need. So what does it mean to meet full financial need? It means that we colleges do a calculation to determine how much your family can afford to attend college. And we compare that to what it actually costs to attend, not just tuition and fees and room and board, but books, transportation to and from our institutions, a lot of miscellaneous expenses that add up. And we will fulfill 100% of the difference between what it costs to attend our institution and how much you can afford. So meeting full financial need is a really important thing to look out for as you're doing your college searches. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of complications to how institutions meet full financial need. But when an institution says that they're able to do that, that's a good thing for you. So these are two terms that you really should be looking for as you explore your colleges if you're concerned about paying for your college education.
Excellent. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our own institutions and our own fly-in programs. So you're looking at a picture of Swarthmore College right there. We are a small liberal arts college of arts and engineering, located about 11 miles southwest of Philadelphia. You can see Philadelphia way up there at the top of the screen, only about a 20-minute train ride from downtown Philadelphia. A couple kind of things I want to raise up about our community at Swarthmore. There's some numbers on the screen now. Kind of talking about kind of what our community looks like. One of the, I think, really important things to know is that it's not just about numbers, right? It's about what type of community that we have, and how do folks feel when they get on our campus. So numbers are one thing, but the question of community goes beyond just the numbers of different types of students. So our campus, we have a first-generation low-income student office that regularly meets with students. We have a Black Home Center that houses our African-American, Caribbean, and African student groups, celebrating its 50th year this year. Intercultural Center that houses 20 different affinity groups, including our LGBTQ affinity groups, our Questbridge Scholars group on our campus. Our Native student organizations housed in the Intercultural Center as well. So these spaces are about creating conversation and community and bringing students who sometimes feel at the margins of this higher education, giving them a space, a sense of belonging, and a sense of home on our campus. So beyond just these numbers, is about what type of community are we creating with the spaces on our campus, and that's a really important piece when we think about diversity and inclusion. I also want to raise up some things that are kind of, I think, important to know about Swarthmore as well. I said before, we're about 11 miles southwest of Philadelphia. So I say to students a lot, we're kind of best of both worlds. Get a small campus of only 1,600 students, but you also have access to this world-class city, the sixth largest city in the country, Philadelphia. Like many of the peer folks here, we're also a part of our own consortium that includes Harvard and Bryn Mawr colleges and the University of Pennsylvania. So at Swarthmore, you can take courses at all three of those campuses as well. Unique thing about our curriculum, our first semester for all first-year students is pass-fail. So I think somebody said we're all about exploration in the liberal arts, and this is how we do exploration at Swarthmore. You don't get any grades that first semester as a first-year student. So it really does give you a chance to explore all your options academically before you choose a major at the end of your sophomore year. And then uniquely, we also have an engineering program, a department at Swarthmore as well. And so this means students are able to leave Swarthmore with a bachelor's in science in engineering, and that's a pretty special thing. And we do it in the liberal arts context. So you can double major in engineering and philosophy or history or anything else you want to do. So we allow for that flexibility. And we're also a cash-free campus. And what that means is that students aren't paying any door money for events they want to go to on our campus. Speakers, lectures, parties, performances, NCAA, Division III games, you're not paying out of pocket for any of those things. And that's a really important piece about creating an equitable community on our campus as well. I also want to talk, raise up this a little bit about financial aid as well. Manny kind of broke down what knee blind means and what meaningful financial need means. That's really, really important. Often we also do that loan free, and so that means there's no loans in the financial aid package students get from Swarthmore College. So we try to fill that space with scholarships and grants that you don't have to pay back, as opposed to packaging loans inside your financial aid package. So we are going to meet, or are going to have knee blind admissions, and that includes undocumented students as well. And we're going to meet 100% need, and we're going to do it with loan-free financial aid packages. Some quick things about our fly-in program. It's called Discover Swarthmore. And I want to just raise up the 2 essay questions that are part of our application. You can choose either of these topics to write about in your Discover Swarthmore application. What's really great about these is we think they're really great primers for your college application when you get ready to apply to any school, and they're good reflective questions that you should be thinking about that will help prime you for your college essay when you apply to colleges, but also give you a good space to write for us as well. And these are about 500-word essays that we ask for folks in our Discover Swarthmore application. And here's the timeline, which you should expect. We're still in the process of deciding whether we're going to be an on-campus program or a virtual program. So we'll update on those that choice very soon. But regardless, we're going to provide the same opportunity for you to get to know Swarthmore. So right now, like we said, explore our website, get to know us there. We do have a nomination process for Discover Swarthmore. So teachers or counselors can nominate you for the program. It's not a required part at all, so you can still apply to Discover Swarthmore even if you're not nominated for it. We have a counselor or teacher, they can nominate you for you right now, and that deadline is going to be June 15th. Application deadline is going to be July 7th, and that's when you're going to get to our application and your final junior year transcript to us by that deadline. Looking to hear back around mid-August or so, and then the program will happen in the fall.
Awesome. Thanks, Windsor. So we'll transition into sharing a little bit about Williams. So if we're going north of Philly and heading to the northwest corner of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, right on the border of New York State and Vermont, to a small town called Williamstown, Massachusetts. We really like Williams. Williams is the town, it's the school, it's kind of all of it. But on this slide, you'll see some quick fast facts about our 2,200 undergraduate students. I won't speak too much about the college community, though I'd love to share more if you attend the WOW program. So I'll just share 2 highlights that kind of, I think, are emblematic of the Williams experience. One is that on any of the 4 campuses that you're hearing from now, small classes matter and relationships with faculty matter deeply. I think at Williams, the way you see that play out is through a Williams tutorial. So not all of your classes are in this format, but if you choose to, you can take a class that's offered with just 2 students and 1 professor. Roughly 10% of our classes are offered in tutorial format. It's a really cool way for you to take a class with just 1 peer, your professor, and to get to deep dive into a topic that you're interested in or passionate about. So I think that's one of the pieces that sort of differentiates Williams. The other thing that I'll just mention is our experience in the fall called Mountain Day, which I think really shows our community coming together. So these 2,200 undergrads, our faculty and staff in this small town are located kind of at the base of Mount Greylock, which is the highest peak in Massachusetts. And then each fall in October, our president will randomly cancel classes on one of the first 3 Fridays in October. And it is a day for our community to not have class, not have exams, not have regularly scheduled events, but instead to really celebrate what it means to be part of the Williams community. So we all get to go outside. There's an outdoor picnic. If you want to, you can go hiking. If you'd rather just stuff your face with cider donuts like me, that's totally cool too. All the performance groups go outside and perform as well, and we just get to enjoy sort of the beauty of being in New England and sort of at the base of the mountains in Williamstown. And I mention Mountain Day specifically because some years our WOW scholars get lucky enough that it overlaps with our October date. So our Windows on Williams program is our fly-in program, WOW. You'll see the application link listed here, as well as the 2 program dates. We host 1 program in September and 1 program in October. Whether we are on campus or virtual, those will still be the dates that we host. And whether we are on campus or virtual, a lot of the programming will sort of still stay the same. You'll still have all of the same options to sort of see and breathe and live and feel our community, even if it's from afar. And then the 2 dates and deadlines that you see listed here, I always just like to clarify. We do have 2 deadlines, one in July and one in August. There's no preference given to either deadline. So if you apply in July, you'll just hear back earlier by July 17th. If you apply in August, you hear back by September 1st, but we do not have a preference for which date you apply by. It's the exact same application review process. So whichever date you choose to apply, that's your round. You can't then sort of defer to the next round. We'll only ever look at you through 1 application round for WOW, but we do give you 2 options just in case you're not quite ready with your high school transcript and details by July. You have the August option for you as well. Regardless of which program, which date you apply by, you'll get to choose the program that you want to attend, whether that's September or October. So that's just a little bit about WOW, but turning things over to Pomona.
We were going to take a flight across the country to good old Southern California. We are located in the city of Claremont, California. We were in the city of Pomona when we were first founded, and the name just kind of stuck, I guess. We shortly moved over to Claremont, and that's what you're seeing now. A couple of key things that I want to highlight. So Pomona, like SWAT, like some of our peers here, is part of a consortium. Ours is a little bit different in that we're literally right across the street from one another. So if you see that curved wall sort of on the left of the picture, just north of that is another one of the Claremont colleges known as Claremont McKenna College, and then south is Pomona. So just to give you an idea that we're all very close to each other. We're also very close to those beautiful mountains. So if you like to be outdoors, we're a place to do that. Obviously, you could do that at a variety of places. But wanted to highlight that because of our beautiful location and our proximity to mountains, an hour away from the beach, we do have this tradition called Ski Beach Day. It's one of my favorite things. I should have mentioned I'm a Pomona alumna, and I went on Ski Beach Day my last year, and it was amazing. You ski in the morning, and then you go to the beach at night, and that's really only possible because of where we are in the country. So just wanted to give that small tradition a little shout out. But this is our beautiful campus. A little bit about sort of Pomona in detail. Who goes to Pomona? If you ask any student, most of them will say their favorite thing is the people. And so these are some very, surface level facts of who attends the institution. When we think about diversity at Pomona, we think about it in a variety of ways. Yes, ethnically and racially, and you can see that breakdown there in that pie chart, but also just in lived experience, and some students' lived experience is coming from abroad. And so 59 countries are currently represented in our institution, and about 26% of our students identify as first generation and or low income, which terms that Windsor defined earlier in the presentation. So a little bit of, again, who goes to Pomona and the kind of community that you can expect to be a part of. We are committed to making our education accessible and affordable for students. So here are some stats on what that looks like: the average financial aid package and the percentage of students who are receiving financial aid. Know that we are one of those schools that is need blind, which again was defined earlier. 100% of demonstrated need met, and this is for all students who apply. And we are need blind for all domestic students. So like has been mentioned, anyone studying in the US, undocumented students, documented students, any US citizen or permanent resident would qualify for these things. So just know that we are committed to making Pomona accessible and affordable for all of our admitted students. And last but certainly not least, POP, which is just, we all have such cute like little acronyms and stuff like that for our fly-in programs. So POP is known as POP, but it's long for Perspectives on Pomona. Our application is already live, like I mentioned. You can go ahead and if you just Google Perspectives on Pomona, we're the only one that exists like that. So you can easily find us. We are expected to apply by August 16th, but know that is a long time from now. So you have plenty of time to put your application together. But if you're a procrastinator, like I can sometimes be, and you push it close to the deadline and have trouble submitting anything, just let us know. We're never going to turn away excited, eager students, right? A part of our application that you can expect, we have two sort of short-ish essays, like about 300 words each, and one in which you reflect on Maya Angelou's Still I Rise poem, and the other one is a bit more of an intellectual question where you can choose from being inspired by our state motto. California state motto is Eureka. So a moment in where you found something really exciting and intellectually stimulating. And then the other essay prompt is about our humanities studio, which is a really cool sort of studio on Pomona's campus that on every year they take on a theme and run workshops, talks, and have classes surrounding that theme. And so last year it was the idea of post-truth and alternative facts and things like that, and sort of in the context of our current presidency, and they kind of explored that theme. They are actually part of POP, and so every year we have them do a workshop or something like that. So that's one of the things that you can expect for our programming. Other things that you can expect, we love social games and hosting virtual social lounges, so we'll be happy to do that for you. We are also planning seeing how we can get students to potentially like Zoom into classes, and Pomona has not yet decided if we will be in person or virtual in the fall, so that's a thing that is up in the air and will affect our programming. Regardless, we are still going to be virtual for POP, and we're going to ask students to report to us for two sort of half-day programs on Saturdays, September 19th and 26th. So just put those tentatively on your calendar, and more information and a schedule to come, but we're really excited for the possibilities here.
So one benefit of the virtual space that we're living in now is that we're going to get on our little virtual planes and go all the way back to Massachusetts, all the way to Amherst. So Amherst College, as I mentioned before, is located in Amherst, Massachusetts. We have a saying at Amherst that we are a diverse intellectual community where all three of those words matter. So you can see a little bit about our diversity on the screen now in terms of our racial and ethnic diversity, as well as the socioeconomic diversity that we have on campus. I will call attention to, yes, we do meet 100% of demonstrated need. We do have need blind admission, and that is true for all students, regardless of citizenship, where they're living, if they're transferring in, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't use any loans in our financial aid either. So that's all grant and scholarship money. The second word is intellectual. So one thing I want to highlight about Amherst is that we have an open curriculum, which means that outside of your major requirements, there are no preset requirements or categories of requirements that you need to complete. So outside of your major, you actually pick every single class that you take, whereas at other colleges that might be thought of as an elective. At Amherst, everything outside of your major is an elective. It's what you elect to take. And then the last word is community, and one element of our community that I like to draw attention to is, like Paola mentioned with Pomona, our consortium. So we are part of a consortium of colleges where we're located in Western Massachusetts. And there are 5 institutions total in the consortium, and over 30,000 undergraduates in that 10-mile radius, even though at Amherst we are that small college with about 1,800 students on our campus living and learning together at any given time. We have some really exciting announcements about our fly-in program, which is called Access to Amherst. You may have heard of Amherst's fly-in program before, and you may have been familiar with the DEVO program. So that was actually the former name of our fall fly-in program. So we have a new name. We didn't know that we would be doing a whole new program with this new name, but we are excited to have our Access to Amherst program come with a whole new program that will exist in the virtual space. Just FYI, you may hear me refer to it as A2A. That's our little cute acronym for our Access to Amherst program. The deadline to apply is on September 1st. A couple things I want to draw attention to is that we do require that you submit an essay as part of the Access to Amherst application. And that is an original essay that you will write in response to a specific prompt on the A2A website. You will also submit a graded academic paper. So this is something that you might think of as like a writing sample. So maybe an essay that you wrote for a class in your junior year or even in your sophomore year is fine. We like to see the comments that your teacher made so that we can get a better sense of you as a student in the academic space. You also may submit a letter of recommendation. It's not required, but I think as we are going away from requiring standardized tests, we don't require SAT subject tests or any AP testing or SATs or ACTs or PSATs or anything like that. We want to get as much information as we can about you as a student in order to help us get to know you a little bit better. Our program dates are going to be October 4th through the 8th, so that might seem like a really long time, but as I mentioned, we are going to be virtual, and so what we have planned is just a couple of hours of programming on each day, working in larger groups, but also smaller groups of maybe 15 other A2A attendees with an admission dean and a current Amherst student. And you'll be able to get to know those people really well over the course of those 4 days with just a couple hours of programming on each day. And when you register for the program after you're admitted, we'll be asking questions like, what time zone are you in? What times work best for you? And trying to work around your schedule so that we ensure that you have access to our program over the course of those days.
Awesome. So I hope that this was a way for you to learn a little bit about each of our 4 individual institutions and each of our 4 individual programs, as well as broadly about the fly-in application process and a little bit about the college search process. We're going to now turn to questions that you ask. I see there's already been some questions in the Q&A, which is awesome. Please feel free to keep sending those in. We will try to answer as many questions as we possibly can in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But we'll also list here on this slide our email addresses. So if you have specific questions about our individual programs, you can always feel free to reach out to each of us individually. So there are lots of questions here. We'll start with, if you don't necessarily fall into the category of a student who might attend a fly-in program, are there other ways for you to connect with the institution, or can you still attend? So maybe we can each speak briefly about the ways that students can connect with us virtually if they're not attending our fly-in programs. And I can kick things off. At Williams, we run information sessions every day at 3 p.m. Eastern, and except Wednesdays, which are Q&A sessions with current students. So lots of different ways for you to continue to connect virtually, as well as our virtual tour that's up on our website, even if you're not going to apply to the fly-in program, or if you're not admitted to the fly-in program but still want to learn more about Williams, that can be a great way for you to connect with us. Mandy, want to go next?
Thanks, Steph. So yeah, similar to Williams, Amherst offers informational sessions that are 45 minutes long every day at 2 p.m. and then an additional 45 minutes of Q&A with current students. So you can spend an hour and a half on any day of the week with us to learn more about Amherst. I want to call attention to the fact, though, that there's a lot of benefits to applying to a fly-in program, even if you may not be sure if you might be eligible or not. A couple of those benefits are that even if you're not admitted to a fly-in program, you may be offered a fee waiver to apply for admission if we're really excited about your candidacy, and that can be used to apply for admission to the institution. The other thing that you may be able to do, depending on the institution, is to utilize some of the elements that you've already submitted for your fly-in application toward your application for admission. And I'll use Amherst as an example of that. So we are allowing students who apply for the Access to Amherst program to use the essay that they write for the A2A application and or the essay that they uploaded, the writing sample that they uploaded, to apply toward their application for admission. And if you decide to upload or request a letter of recommendation, you can also use that toward your application for admission. And so that actually allows you to do some of the work toward applying to colleges that you may be doing in October or November of your senior year, and kind of get that done over the summer, which can really benefit you in the fall of your senior year. So there are some really strong benefits to applying to the programs, even if you're not sure if you might be a good fit. Windsor, you want to take it away?
Sure. So we're also offering virtual opportunities for students to get to know us over the summertime while we're social distancing. So we have an online information session that students can access. You can learn more about software that way. We also have Q&A sessions as well up on the website. You can visit and ask questions of your admissions officers. You can also have online tours led by students, where we get to interact with the students directly. And we're also offering our Ask a Swati page. If you have questions you want to ask of directly of SWAT from the students as well. We have some students who are answering those questions over the summertime too. I'll also add to what Mandy was saying in terms of whether you should apply to a fly-in program. I always tell students, if you find good fit with an institution, even if you don't fall into all those categories or any of those categories, it's still okay to apply, right? And also I add as well that, if you don't get into a fly-in program, that's okay too. Fly-in programs can be very selective, but it doesn't mean you're not a good fit for that institution, right? So don't be discouraged if you don't get into your fly-in program. I think there are lots of students that are at each of our institutions who maybe didn't get into the fly-in program, but when they applied for admission, they were accepted and they're walking around our campuses right now. So don't be discouraged if you don't get a positive result from your fly-in application. It does not mean you're not a good fit for that college.
I will echo what Mandy and Windsor said in terms of applying versus not, and identifying with one of those versus none of those or three of those. And just briefly, how we have made ourselves available during this time of social distancing. We offer information sessions live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at different times, just to try to be available for different people who are in different time zones. So those are all available on our website, but they're 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. Pacific time. So do the one that makes the most sense for you and your schedule. We also on those days offer 15-minute one-on-one appointments with an admissions officer. So if you have some quick fire questions that you want to ask, that might be a good avenue to use. And then on Mondays and Fridays, the same is available, but only with current students. So they will be doing live Q&As for an hour, and then they're also going to have 15-minute appointments where you can rapid fire grill them with questions about Pomona. So those are the ways that we've become available. A reminder and also plug for social media. We're especially proud of our Instagram. One of our colleagues puts lots of work into it. So we know that you spend time scrolling on those little devices, and that's okay. So you could use some of that time to learn about some colleges via social media, of course.
Awesome. It does look like there are some folks who had some technical issues joining us at the start of the session. Just wanted to make sure that you're aware that this is being recorded now, and this will be posted certainly on individual websites, but also will be sent out via email to all folks who registered and all folks who received the invitation. So don't worry, we will make sure that you get access to the information that you might have missed on the front end. And still feel free to send in questions using the Q&A feature. Again, we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can. There's a question here about what happens if you're not quite sure what your senior year classes are yet. A lot of schools have different registration timelines and processes. Paula, can you share a little bit about a suggestion that you might have for students if they're not sure about their senior classes?
Yeah, especially for us, I think you can, one, note that these are tentative courses and you're not sure. And two, just sort of guesstimate, potentially what seniors have taken in the past. So you can know, hey, I don't quite know for sure, but these are my plans, these are my goals. And especially if you have a class that you really want to take and you're like, I'm for sure prioritizing that with my counselor, go ahead and note that too. So you can always, as long as you're clear with us, especially, I'm going to say for Pomona, but probably for my colleagues too, if you're clear with us and communicate, this is a tentative schedule that I'm not sure about just yet, we'll be able to evaluate that as such.
And I think that in general, that's one of the reasons to think about a small liberal arts college, to attend a small liberal arts college. We do things on a really individualized level here at all 4 of our institutions. So if something comes up, if you're not sure, just reach out. That's why we give you our email addresses. We're more than happy to connect with you. We're places that are really student-centered in our approach to any work that we do. So certainly in the application process as well, please be in touch with us at any point in time. There are some questions here about nominations. So Windsor, can you share, does the nomination process impact the application at Swarthmore? What if you're not nominated? What if you are? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So like I said before, we do have a nomination process for Discover Swarthmore. That process began back in February. So teachers, community-based organization, advisors, your pastor at your church can all nominate folks, high school students for Discover Swarthmore, saying this student might be a good fit for Discover Swarthmore. It might be a good fit for Swarthmore. That program begins, that process began in February and will go until June. But you don't have to be nominated for Discover Swarthmore in order to apply, right? So if you don't get nominated for Discover Swarthmore, that's totally fine. You can still apply. Students who get nominated don't have any advantage over students who did not get nominated. The nomination process really is just a way to use the resources of the folks that are in your community who know you really well to raise you up as someone who might be a good fit for Swarthmore. And it helps us communicate to you early on in your junior year and into your senior year about Swarthmore as well. So it really is a kind of communication tool and to use the great resources of the folks that are in your community supporting you in your college journey to kind of get you on our radar for things like Discover Swarthmore as well. So, but students that get nominated do not have any advantage over students who aren't nominated in our process.
There are a couple of questions here around admission rates for fly-in programs and how many students we accept to the fly-in programs. So what I'll say generally is that admission for the fly-in programs tends to be as selective, if not more selective, than the actual admission process at each of our institutions, typically because we're not able to bring that many students for a fall program because we have small campuses and we can't actually host that many students on our campuses in addition to the students that we already have. So that's one of the factors that sort of weighs in on the application process. So every year we have to say no to really great students who we would love to admit. So don't take that as a factor. As Windsor mentioned earlier, you could still be a really great student for that institution. The other thing that is on here is whether or not virtual might change the number of students. The answer is likely yes, though none of our 4 institutions have a specific number quite yet that we're going to share out about how many students we'll be admitting. In part, that will also reflect on the application pools at each of the schools. So know that we'll share that information as we sort of make those decisions moving forward. There's also a question here about academic papers and whether or not a student should submit more of a polished final draft or something that was done more as a quick write. Mandy, can you share some suggestions that you have about graded academic papers and maybe just in general about writing in the fly-in process?
Yeah, definitely. So at Amherst, I'll kind of address the graded paper before I talk about just some quick tips about writing in the fly-in process. So the graded paper, the purpose is to showcase the ability to create an analytical or argumentative paper, and that you had time to edit that. So a quick write might not be necessarily applicable to what we're asking for around a graded paper. The same thing might go for like a lab report or a creative writing piece. While those are really valuable forms of writing, what we're looking for in this application is again, that crafting of an argument and being able to kind of show a specific viewpoint and have had time to edit that. Writing is going to be a really important piece in the considerations that we make in thinking about our applications to our fly-in programs, and also thinking about our applications for our institutions, because of the fact that liberal arts colleges, no matter what your major is, even if you're at Swarthmore and you're studying engineering, writing is going to be an important piece of your experience. And so writing is something that we're looking really specifically at in your applications for our fly-in programs. So you want to make sure that you've had time to edit any essays that you're writing for a fly-in program. Making sure that you're utilizing your spell checks and just checking for grammar, but also ensuring that you have kind of a centralized thematic message when you're responding to the prompts that we give you. And while I'm saying that, making sure you're responding to the prompts is also a really important part of crafting your essays for fly-in programs. So certainly something that you might want to spend a little bit of time on, and maybe even ask for help if you have someone who can proofread for you.
Awesome. So just in the interest of time, I want to wrap us by just sharing, we've talked a lot about fly-in programs, the fly-in process. We haven't necessarily talked about liberal arts colleges and why the four of us as liberal arts institutions care so deeply about this type of learning and this type of institution. So maybe we can go in order of youngest institution to oldest. That'll put me last, and I think Pomona first. So why liberal arts colleges, Paula?
Yeah. We could spend a whole hour explaining a liberal arts education and why they're so powerful and wonderful. But I mentioned earlier that there's room for exploration and flexibility, right? And so that's really what Pomona stands by. To break that down a little bit, so we were established in 1887 in California very intentionally to bring this very East Coast, which is represented here, East Coast kind of liberal arts model to the West Coast. And so that's what we do here at Pomona. We have brought those two things together in a really beautiful way, we think. At Pomona, you have 6 areas of study in which you have to take a class. Which class you decide to take is completely up to each and every one of our students. So even in our general education requirements, we've built in so much room for exploration, personalization, and again, flexibility. The goal out of a liberal arts college, and definitely for Pomona and probably for my peers here, is to equip students with what we call soft skills. So the ability to read, write, think critically, formulate ideas. I tell everyone that I ever tell about Pomona that the best thing that it taught me was how to argue and how to formulate ideas and present those to others. And so that's the mission of a liberal arts college. That's the mission of Pomona and sort of how we go about that. But as you learn and hopefully seen today, all 4 of us kind of have a different approach to the liberal arts that's going to work for some students and not for others. And that's, again, a reminder to find institutions that work for you.
I think if my math is right, Swarthmore is next.
I'm glad you knew that, Stephanie, because I didn't know the order. Yeah, so I think I want to second everything Paula said, and I'll add that's about community too. I think liberal arts colleges are very intentional communities because we're small communities, and that means we're bringing together folks with all different backgrounds, perspectives, differences, and talking through what that means. I think really important things about our campuses is that hopefully you can walk into those campuses and find folks who share your experience. So I mentioned the Black Cultural Center at Swarthmore. I'm an alum of Swarthmore. It was really important when I got to campus, I could walk onto that campus and find folks who shared my experience in the Black Cultural Center as an African-American male, but I also found folks in the Black Cultural Center from Ghana and from South Africa and from the Caribbean. It all had all different types of experiences with their Africanness or with their Blackness. And it was this place where we could talk through those things together. So I think you'll find that liberal arts colleges are very intentional about the communities they're bringing together. That includes students, but it also includes faculty as well. Folks that are at liberal arts colleges want to be in those small class sizes, want to engage with their students in really deep ways. And that's why I came back to Swarthmore to work, because I want to engage with students, faculty, and staff in the intimate way that a small college really provides and makes easy and possible to do. So when thinking about the schools that you're applying to, think about that community aspect as well, what that means to you, what things work for you in high school, and what things around community, and what you might want to replicate in the college environment. Liberal arts colleges, because of our small size, I think allow for that type of community building. That was certainly important to my success. It may be important to your all's success as well.
Yeah, I definitely echo everything that Paola and Windsor have already covered. And I want to add a concept that I find really central to the liberal arts experience, which is that of challenge and support. So at liberal arts colleges, we were founded and built on the idea that your perspective matters, as does the person next to you, as does your faculty member. And it's our job to help you to integrate those perspectives. And we want you to hear perspectives that are different from your own. We want you to be exposed to voices and people that you may not have heard from before. And we want you to be challenged in the position that you're coming from. But we also want to support you. And we want to support who you are and where you come from and how you came to us at Amherst. And those things go hand in hand. And that is the center of the liberal arts experience that's different from what you might get at an institution that may have liberal arts values, maybe focusing on the skills that Paola mentioned in their academic ways. But all four of us have our foundation in the notion of challenge and support, and therefore active citizenship and active participation in discourse after you graduate, and leadership beyond our walls.
Awesome. And I'll wrap by sharing that as a non-small liberal arts college alum, I think the first thing that really surprised me in the best way possible when I got to Williams, and as I started learning more about our three peer institutions that are on this panel as well, is just the tremendous amount of resources that are available to students. Windsor mentioned the cultural centers on the Swarthmore campus. Mandy mentioned faculty, like all of those pieces, yes, and more, even things that you can't necessarily imagine quite yet. And these four institutions, we regularly do programming together because we recognize that we sit in a place of privilege and that we have immense resources to share with students, so that when students come to our campuses, we're able certainly to meet their financial need, as we've discussed previously, but also beyond that, to make sure that if students want to present at a conference alongside a faculty member, that they're given that opportunity. If they want to do research, that they're paid to do those experiences. And we can really serve as launching points for them in their pathways moving forward. Those resources also come in the support of faculty, staff, and centers, as mentioned earlier as well. And I think that those moments in which you have an emergency pop up, or inevitably as a human, things won't always go smoothly in your college process, that you'll have someone there for you. Those things really matter at a small liberal arts college and across all four of our campuses. So say that the resources available to you are really the thing that I cherish most about being at Williams, but certainly at any small liberal arts college. So with that, we are 1 minute over our time. Thank you so much for joining us, for spending so much of your day with us.